There are moments in history that appear harmless. Moments filled with music, laughter, color, and relief. Moments where people believe the danger has passed, simply because they cannot yet see it. This was one of those moments. The war had not begun. The ships had not landed. No blood had touched Trojan soil. And yet, everything was already lost. Because on this day, Paris returned to Troy. And Helen returned with him. Not as a prisoner. Not as a warning. But as a prize. The Aegean Sea was calm. Too calm. The kind of stillness that makes sailors uneasy, as if the water itself is holding its breath. Paris ships cut through the blue like knives through silk. Bronze prows gleamed in the sun. Trojan banners fluttered proudly, untouched by doubt. On deck stood Paris, no longer the shepherd who once fled prophecy, but the prince who believed he had outwitted fate. Behind him stood Helen. She did not look like a woman stolen. She did not look like a woman rescued. She looked like a woman already carried too far to remember the road back. As Troy's walls rose on the horizon, Paris felt triumph swell in his chest. This was not exile. This was return. And Troy would welcome them. Troy had never been taken. Its walls were not just stone, they were belief. Belief in divine protection. Belief in destiny favoring the city of Priam. Belief that no foreign army could ever break what gods themselves had built. As the ships entered the harbor, horns sounded. Not alarms. Celebrations. The gates opened wide. The streets filled. The city leaned forward to witness the prince's return. And when Helen stepped onto Trojan soil, the air changed. People stopped breathing, not from fear, but from awe. Beauty has power. And Helen carried it like a weapon no one recognized as dangerous. Cassandra saw her first. She did not scream this time. She did not run. She stood still, as if every vision she had ever endured had finally taken shape in a single human form. Helen. The woman who was not a monster. Not a demon. Not a destroyer by intention. And yet, the hinge on which Troy's future would break. Cassandra knew then that her curse had reached its cruelest point. Because the truth was no longer abstract. It was walking through the gates, smiling, admired. And still, no one listened. Priam welcomed Paris as a father welcomes a son returned from danger. With pride. With relief. With blindness. He did not ask what had been broken to bring Helen home. He did not ask which oaths had been shattered. He did not ask which kings now burned with humiliation. Because Troy had walls. Because Troy had allies. Because Troy had never lost. And so the king chose peace over foresight. Not knowing that peace built on denial is only a delay of destruction. Helen was given chambers overlooking the city. From her balcony she saw Troy breathe, its markets, its children, its towers. She was not treated as a cause for fear. She was treated as a symbol of triumph. The city saw her beauty. But beauty never tells you what it costs. At night, Helen dreamed. Not of Sparta. Not of Menelaus. But of fire moving through streets that once celebrated her arrival. She would wake with her heart racing, and the sound of Troy asleep beneath her window. A city dreaming peacefully. On the edge of a nightmare. Hector did not celebrate loudly. He stood apart from the feasting. From the music. From the wine. He watched Paris laugh. Watched Helen smile. and felt something cold settle behind his ribs. Not jealousy. Not anger. Instinct. The instinct of a man who understands war even when war has not yet arrived. Hector had heard the prophets. He had not mocked them. But neither had he been strong enough to force the city to listen. And so Troy moved forward, guided not by wisdom, but by momentum. Cassandra walked through the streets as the celebrations grew. She saw children playing at war, pretending to be heroes they had never met. She saw merchants selling Helen's likeness carved into wood. She saw smiles everywhere. And she understood something more terrible than any vision. Troy was not ignorant. Troy was unwilling. Unwilling to believe that joy could be borrowed. Unwilling to accept that beauty could summon armies. Unwilling to imagine a future different from the past. This was no longer a failure of prophecy. This was a failure of courage. As night fell, the city slept content. The harbor emptied. The music faded. And beyond the horizon, far beyond Trojan sight, another fleet was already moving. Oars dipped into the water in rhythm. Sails caught the same wind that had carried Paris home. But these ships did not carry celebration. They carried memory. They carried humiliation. They carried oaths that had not been forgotten. The Greeks were coming. And Troy was applauding itself. Helen stood alone once more. She understood now that no matter how softly she walked, the ground would still remember her steps. She had not chosen to be the axis of a war. But she had become it. And history does not care whether the center of destruction intended to destroy. Only that it did. The temples grew quiet. Not empty, quiet. The gods had warned. The signs had been given. The prophets had spoken. And now the responsibility belonged solely to mortals. The gods did not abandon Troy. They simply stopped interfering. Which is far worse. This was the last peaceful night Troy would ever know. Not because war arrived the next morning. But because destiny had crossed the final threshold. Paris had returned. Helen was inside the walls. The city had chosen celebration over caution. And from that moment forward, everything Troy did would only decide how it fell, not if. Troy was not destroyed by surprise. It was destroyed by confidence. By beauty mistaken for blessing. By warnings ignored in favor of comfort. The war had not begun. But Troy had already lost the moment it believed it had won. And so ends the age before the war. The sails are already on the horizon. In the next season, the sea will break against Trojan sand. The first hero will fall. And the war that history could not forget will finally begin. Season 2, The War Begins. Episode 13, The First Clash, Death of Protesilaus. Thank you for watching till the very end. If you're still here, it means you truly enjoyed the story, and that means the world to me. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, and share this video with someone who loves mythology as much as you do. Your support helps this epic journey continue, episode after episode. Once again, thank you for watching, thank you for staying till the end. And I'll see you in the next chapter of Trojan mythology.